All right, guys, welcome back to the Wes and Joy Show. I am your co-host, Joy, and along with me is my other co-host, Wes.
Yo, what's going on? Wes and Joy Show Nation.
Hey, how you doing today, man?
You know, I'm good. I'm good. We have a new president. We have a lot of good things going on. I got nothing to complain about today, Joy.
All right, that's good. That's good. How's your week been for the team?
Formula. Are you referring to Formula?
Yes.
You know what? We're actually doing pretty good. I don't want to release too much, but right now we are just doing the design phase of our 2021 spec vehicle. And it's pretty interesting what all our departments are coming up with. And, we're shaping up to a strong winter when we start putting it all together physically. And hopefully come springtime, we bring home that top spot, that P1, baby.
Hey, man, I can't wait to see the finished production for that. But yeah. Anyway, watching like pretty much listening to the first episode that we posted, I wasn't able to pretty much introduce myself. I'm pretty much just like a huge fan of Formula One. I've been watching Formula One since 2015. The very first race I finished was Austin, right? It's the U.S. Grand Prix 2015. This was the race where, pretty much the Hamilton and Rosberg battle was, you could say, at its peak. It already peaked a couple races before, but this was kind of the main. It was a title clincher for Lewis Hamilton, and that's off of a Rosberg huge mistake. I think people know it as like that post post waiting room where Hamilton throws the hat to Rosberg and then Rosberg throws it back. That was the first race I've ever watched. Fun
Oh,
fact,
wow.
yeah. So yeah, fun fact about that is back then the U.S. didn't actually put up live races, so you would actually have to wait until 2 or 3 o'clock p.m. until like I think it was Fox that would broadcast, but it would have been done by then. So for me, I actually had to wake up early in the morning and watch it in a Spanish channel. So yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of U.S. fans that could relate. But yeah, that was those were some good times. I didn't really understand what was going on, but like just following the racing, it was easy to pick up what was happening. So yeah. Anyway, Wes, were you wanted to reintroduce yourselves, right? There was some we wanted to clear things up, and especially after the first episode, and so maybe these will clear things up.
Sure. And actually, before I get into that, if I may, could I actually talk about how I got exposed to F1?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so my exposure to F1 has really been in spots. So, of course, when I was actually a little kid, so mid to late 2000s, um, I used to try and follow every single sport I could. And when I came across Formula One, they made a big deal of this guy named Michael Schumacher, right? And I didn't think anything of it other than, he was the best, because that's what the highlights portrayed. And at the time, when you're like, what, 9, 10 years old, you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. And living in America, you're like, well, the sport I'm already playing is more interesting than that. And, after Michael Schumacher was no longer in my line of sight, I didn't really follow Formula One too much throughout my early teens. And then, so like the early or late 2000s, early 2010s, there were two, I guess, concepts of the sport that were all of a sudden being marketed. And that was these silver and red cars for McLaren. And I knew McLaren made regular cars, but I didn't know they had a racing team. And their poster boy, some guy named Lewis Hamilton. And little did I know that that name would actually mean a lot to me a few years down the line. So again, just following Formula One or hearing of Formula One in spots, we fast forward until 2018. And, Joy, I'm really thankful for you for this, for actually telling me more about the sport and, motivating me to actually take the time and watch it. So, 2018, I just graduated from my university for a bachelor's degree, and I'm watching, again, these silver cars, but it's not McLaren, it's Mercedes. And I didn't know that Mercedes-Benz had its own team at the time. And lo and behold, their number one guy is Lewis Hamilton. So Lewis Hamilton finds a way to be back in my life again. And, I guess you can say that I came back to watching Lewis at the right time, right? Because, Mercedes was already at the pinnacle.
Right.
And all I could understand was that, okay, it's not like NASCAR where cars are driving around in complete circles or ovals. There's a lot of technicalities, that go on. And, but no matter what, no matter how highly advanced all the technologies are, like DRS and, strats and ERSs, and I didn't even know that the cars were hybrid. All I know is that Lewis Hamilton was putting on a show,
right,
week in and week out. And, over the next 2 seasons, I've started to fully understand the sport, appreciate the sport, to the point where I'm putting the sport ahead of the sports that I grew up with. Right. Sorry, baseball and basketball. And, Lewis Hamilton has somehow found a way, or deservedly so, found a way in my Mount Rushmore of athletes. So, I guess you can say I started out with Ferrari and then transitioned over to McLaren, both in casual roles. And then now it's all about Lewis Hamilton. And I guess for right now, Mercedes. I then learned also that, F1 can be very volatile, that who you represent can change in a matter of seconds, right?
Right.
Or rather quickly. I shouldn't go as far as saying seconds. But ever since then, I've been following the sport, been watching all the action, been familiar with the drivers, especially on the last 2 years that are on the grid. Right. Sad to see some go, excited to see some new talent come in, and watching all the drama and the politics of it. It just gets me going, man. Right. And I'm glad. Again, I'm thankful for you for getting me into the sport.
Yeah, I'm glad.
It also led to, I'm sorry, but it also led to opportunities that I'm actually going through right now. So yes, thank you, Joy. Thank you, F1.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought up that point that now there's a new generation of Formula One drivers coming in, and so it feels like I'm going through just my second generation of Formula One itself. Maybe since you brought up Schumacher's era, maybe you are kind of more experiencing that third wave of generation coming into Formula One. But yeah,
sure.
And let's do some housekeeping.
Yes, housekeeping. So, as you know, my name is Wes, and I did want to clear up a couple things from the last episode. The first thing was my job in motorsport. So I'll be honest with each and every one of you. So what I actually do is, in my personal life outside of this podcast and being a Formula One fan, I do consulting. But in my educational part of my life, I am currently studying a master's degree in sports management. So that's where the management part comes up. And on the side, I am part of the Formula student team. Now, you all may have heard Joy say something along the lines of me managing the team. That is completely false. I am part of a department within the team, but I don't make management or decisions per se. Now, of course, do I want to manage a sports entity in the future? Yes, that is why I am pursuing this degree. But just to make things clear, I'm just a general member of the team right now. Maybe in the future that could lead to leadership, but for now, I'm just a assistant to our team lead. And so far, it's been a wonderful experience working with them. The second thing I do want to clear up is where we're actually from. So in the last episode, we talked about Mercedes and their awareness, and my defense to Joy's argument of them being the best dominant team in all of sports was that I mistakenly said that I don't think Mercedes is known in our home country of the Philippines. Now, there is a bit of falsehood to that. So we are Filipino. That part is true. But we are actually based in the United States, in Chicago, Illinois, to be exact. So Chi City, what up? Of course, fun fact, one of us was raised in the Philippines, and I guess for a later episode, we can have you all try and take a guess on who that is, whether it's me or Joy. But we are...
The accent might come up.
We are both American-born guys. We are based in America. But, we are proud enough to call Philippines home every now and then to visit some of our family members there. So, mabuhay Pilipinas, and God bless America.
Hey, I mean,
and
yeah.
the last... Yes, go ahead, Joy.
Yeah, I also wanted to apologize to you and our listeners. I did make that mistake that calling you like a manager of the team. I kind of just maybe I was just thinking about like you are getting your master's in sports management, and I kind of tied that up to the team. And so yeah, I definitely want to apologize to you and the listeners.
Oh, for sure. Apology accepted. And I want to apologize to you and the listeners too for misleading some of the information. I'll be better about being more clear, being more specific in the future. And hey, you might not be fully correct about management on me today, but you might not be wrong tomorrow. So yes, apology accepted. I hope you all can accept our apologies, rather. I'm sorry. And the third thing I do want to clear up is talking about Williams. So in the last episode, we talked about how a move to Renault is a possibility. Once again, that is a possibility. We don't know for sure whether that's going to happen, especially with what Doralton Capital has in mind. But that was a rumor stemming from last season when the Williams family was still in control. Not sure where we're at with that now, or where they're at, rather. But, of course, as the news comes in, we will definitely talk about that in the future. And that is all I had from a housekeeping standpoint. Joy, did you have anything?
No, that was pretty much it that I had in mind for the housekeeping. There were some loose ends that we need to tie from the first episode, and so yeah, wouldn't that be amazing if Formula One got their news from us that Williams was gonna switch to Renault, confirmed. But yeah, that is not true. These are just speculations, and we just wanted to clear those things up. And so yeah, this is one of the fun things that we wanted to do the last episode. It was going through my tier list for the tracks. We missed the opportunity. It was getting a little late. We were pushing on like 4 hours the first episode, and so yeah, we just wanted to like kind of quickly brush through my tier list. So yeah, was there anything that you wanted to add, Wes?
No, let's get the ball rolling on this one.
Cool. And so I just want to pretty much start off with the legendary tracks. So these are the tracks that I think belong in Formula One. Like, I don't see these tracks ever going away. We've seen a couple of tracks already leave or are supposed to leave in the future of Formula One, being replaced by tracks that are going to be hosted into larger cities, metropolitan areas. And so yeah, so these are kind of the tracks. So right now I have Belgium, so that's Spa, Monaco, Italy, which is Monza. To clear things up, we have we had three Italian Grand Prix this year, but Austria and Great Britain, which is Silverstone, right? So yeah, Wes, what did you know about any of these tracks? Is there one that kind of sticks out to you?
Silverstone. And this is gonna come up as a real stupid response, so bear with me. But Silverstone, obviously the older layout, so where Lewis got that big victory back in 2008,
Right.
uh, that layout was obviously very popular in racing video games. So of course, running the track virtually, and the name just sticks. So when I found out that that was on the Formula One calendar, when I started getting back into Formula One, I was like, oh wow,
Right.
Silverstone. Of course, it's different now, but it's a legendary track. Um, that's when I started realizing that tracks had names for their corners.
Right.
In Silverstone skates, Brooklands, Maggots, Beckett's, Stowe, Cops, Hanger Straight,
And so,
or well,
yeah.
in that case, just straight. But yeah, I mean, a lot of things about it is just so legendary, and it's just cool to see that backdrop of the grandstand and the cars coming down the line, uh,
Right.
and especially when it's at the end of the race, because it's like you just see the fans go nuts, especially in recent times with Lewis. You just see all the British fans go, yeah. And, that silver or black car now is just going through, whether it has four wheels, three wheels, doesn't matter. Brings all the intensity and all the bliss.
Right. Right. And so, yeah. I mean, I just want to take a shot in the dark here. I'm not completely sure, but the old layout for the Silverstone track was that the first turn was cops. Am I wrong? And then pretty much that was the start finish straight was the before cops.
I believe so.
Okay. Okay. Cause yeah, I remember that track layout in like old games like Gran Turismo, and so yeah, when they started with like that new track layout, like it was new to me, but like it was also refreshing to see because now it's a little bit more exciting of a first what do you call it, first sector. First sector would have been with Maggots and Beckett's back then, if it's
Mhm.
true. So, but yeah, was there any other tracks from my legendary tier that stood out for you?
Uh, Monaco,
Monaco, of course. I
of
don't
course,
I,
right?
I don't ever see, and so like that's why I call it the legendary tracks. I don't ever see these tracks going away. Um and so Monaco is definitely like a track that will never, even though like we never went to it this year because of the virus and the pandemic. Um Definitely Monaco is like one of those tracks where you could definitely look forward to every season. Now, I would say that like Monaco qualifying is a lot more intense than the race itself. Would you agree?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
because
there's something about
yeah,
Monaco,
yeah,
right, that just makes the drivers uh more intense than they actually are. It's like their minds are already running at eighth gear, but for
right,
whatever reason in Monaco they're running at ninth.
right. Yeah, absolutely. And so there's not a lot of overtaking. So, I mean, I'll tell you right now for my legendary track, my favorite one is Spa, right? That's my favorite track, like pretty much throughout the entire calendar. So, Spa Francorchamps. I like it because it's a multi-purpose track. You could. I mean, a lot of these tracks are multi-purpose as well, but like, Belgium, it hosts a lot of GT races. I believe they host the Blanc Pan, they host the WEC, but they also host Formula One. So uh, you kind of get an idea of how fast these Formula One cars, based on these tracks, because a lot of other racing series and racing disciplines spend a lot of time on this track too. So yeah, let's go to uh, my the lower one, right? Let's go to a track tier list. I call it great. It's not I I mean I do see these going away for a track that's probably hosted in the same country, but perhaps a different track. And so yeah, definitely Bahrain. I think Bahrain is a good track, but it's not gonna be. It's not like one of the legendary ones. It doesn't, it hasn't really produced great. I mean, it does produce great racing, but it doesn't produce like the most memorable racing, right? And so the other one is Japan, Netherlands, which is Zandvoort, Brazil, Azerbaijan, and Canada. And so, yeah, was there any tracks from from this list that you kind of like or dislike?
Like, or should I say love Suzuka,
Suzuka, yeah, absolutely.
because you know we've seen a lot of real interesting events go down
Right.
in that race.
Historic.
Historic race, right?
Right, right.
Odd things can happen in that transition between Spoon and 130R,
Right,
right?
right.
And Spoon is probably the biggest hairpin I've ever seen. Like, oh my god.
Right. I mean, uh, during Senna's time, turn one was pretty much probably the biggest turn in that season, right? Like Prost,
Sure.
right, taking each other out, Prost and Senna taking each other out onto turn one, just
Oh, for
so
sure.
Senna could like clinch the title. You know, there was no other way he was gonna take that championship, and so yeah, Japan was definitely one of the toughest one for me because but the reason why I put it as a great track is because we raced in Fuji a couple years ago. Like I think it was 2000, somewhere early 2000s. We raced in Fuji, and that's why I kind of see like there's a lot of great tracks in Japan that could possibly maybe go alongside with Suzuka. So yeah, hopefully we do visit those tracks
Oh, for sure.
sooner.
And what I do want to add with Suzuka is that, so especially trying it from a sim racing perspective, it's that there are a lot of parts of it that you think you're gonna go full speed. No, no, you're not.
Right,
It's a very, it's harder than it looks, is what I'm trying to say.
right,
Especially at that chicane near the end, at the start finish line.
right, right.
And but yeah, no, it's technical, it's fast at the same time.
130R.
Titles have been decided there.
Right.
Uh, Side mirrors can go flying there. Ask Charles Leclerc.
I think
Um,
Japan in general is just such a great country when it comes to hosting um, pretty much motorsport.
for sure. I mean, if you ask me, they are the heart of Asia when it comes to racing,
Right, right.
right?
Absolutely, I agree.
But yes, the main reasons I love Suzuka. It's very technical, but also very, very fast.
Right,
And of course, your season can end there, especially if you're in the lead.
right. Absolutely.
So yeah, that's my love. And I will say, like Interlagos,
Right,
again, that's
absolutely.
where titles have been decided. In a way, it kind of reminds me of a winding mountain pass. I know it's kind of weird, but
Yeah.
hear me out here. A lot of uphill, a lot of downhill, a lot of windy action.
Right,
And it's also home to the greatest radio call of all time, if you ask me,
right.
with Ayrton screaming
Right, right.
as he won, because at that point he hasn't won in his home country, and then that was the one that broke him through.
Yeah. And like, yeah, I kind of have that same feeling with Brazil. Like, it's such a special place, and it also holds so many like special fans. And it's sad to see it go. Interlagos is gonna. I think they're gonna have one more year next year, but after that,
I'm gonna stop you there, Joy, because they're gonna extend.
ah,
Earlier this week, they are gonna extend that contract. They're not gonna go to Rio.
okay, okay, that's good. Cause I was afraid that's why I put these tracks in a lower kind of positions because they do have a tendency like some of these are just some of these might go away in the future. Brazil was the biggest one of them, and there was this scare that Interlagos wasn't going to be part of the calendar anymore, and Rio de Janeiro, it's such a metropolitan place that I could see why Formula One would be attracted to uh, a location like that. But I'm glad that Interlagos is now part of the F1 calendar. And so
And
yeah,
I'm glad to give you that reassurance. And I hope the next time we revisit these, you better put Brazil in Tier A with Monaco, with Great Britain. Because oh my gosh, same with Japan. Oh my
Same with
gosh,
Japan, right? Oh,
they deserve to be
like I
up there.
said, I mean these
How
are
dare you snub them, Joy?
these were difficult. If I had to put Japan and Brazil into legendary tracks, then uh, I would pretty much have no base. There wasn't gonna be any tracks for like the great. Well, Azerbaijan is okay. Is a great track in my opinion.
Mm,
Canada, Bahrain, and also Netherlands. Now we haven't been to the Netherlands. We're supposed to be there next season. If you haven't got a chance to look at the Max Verstappen onboard, you should look at it. It looks like it's so unique. The banking on Zandvoort is incredible. This like it's gonna be interesting to see Formula One cars go through there. I don't think there's gonna be a lot of overtaking opportunities, but I think just a spectacle of watching the cars go through the turns, the undulating paths, and so it'll be interesting to watch.
well, yeah. I mean, with Zandvoort, I mean, they've done it before. F1
Right,
has done it before, right?
right.
Granted, it was at a time before you or me or this awesome podcast existed. But yes, watching that onboard from Max, Super Max, as they call him in
Right,
the Netherlands. But yeah, going through the bankings, all the turns, especially with how the F1 cars look
right,
for next year. And of course, they'll be a little smaller moving forward. But yeah, it's going to be interesting how the teams and the drivers are able to make use of grip, driver skill,
right,
overtaking skill, DRS zones. It's going to be real interesting.
right.
And one thing I do want to add, Joy, I know you asked me about a track that I dislike. Unfortunately for you, there is a dislike that I have in Group B
Okay,
for your, yeah, and that is Azerbaijan.
okay.
I don't find that race interesting at all.
I love it. I love it. I think it produced some great racing in the past. Now, the racing has never been in the front of the grid. It's always usually been in the middle. Probably the most memorable win for me was Ricardo's win when Hamilton and Vettel or Vettel I should say, like kind of smashed into the side of Hamilton after he thought that Hamilton brake checked him during a safety car period, and Ricardo passing three wide into start finish straight. I thought Azerbaijan is great. I think for a city track, it's fast paced. There's a lot of room. You could you could actually fit at least two cars, maybe not in Castle, but at least two cars into the
Definitely not in Castle.
not definitely not in Castle, and so yeah, that's why I think. But yeah, I'm glad that you shared that.
I mean,
Azerbaijan
if
is
you
not.
put it that way, I mean, Azerbaijan, if you're all about contact, yeah.
Yeah,
But in terms of
safety cars.
in terms
That's
of
what I
actually
want.
being like technical and being so artsy, or because this is a half boxing podcast, being all Muhammad Ali, floating like a butterfly out there, then yeah, Azerbaijan is not the race for you.
Right, right,
And
absolutely.
unfortunately for me, I love a strong display of driving, and Azerbaijan hasn't done that for me lately.
Okay,
Uh,
fair
the only
enough.
thing I will say the things that I do enjoyed watching from Azerbaijan is, um, you know, I think it was Daniel Ricciardo.
All
He
right.
got hit because one of his rivals backed into him.
Oh, are you talking about like a couple years ago when he in the Renault backed up into Kvyat because
Oh yeah, there you go.
he
So I had it
overshot.
reversed.
Yeah, he overshot.
Yeah.
Him and Kvyat overshot their braking zones, and he reversed into Kvyat.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. I remember uh, I think it was Gasly. He almost ran into Brendan Hartley,
yeah. I think
and
that was it.
yeah, and the one other was, of course, the iconic, you know, bull on bull, doggy style action there at the end of the straight. Not to
Right.
make it not to make it sound like that, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean for contact, sure, but
But
when
yeah,
it comes to like actual
yeah.
skillful
For
driving, are we gonna see that from all 20 cars? No, I mean
no,
it's like that everywhere, but
right.
yeah.
But yeah, I
I'm not
mean,
a big fan of Azerbaijan.
who could forget? Ocon and Perez. This is when it started, right? This is when like the hatred between them in Force India started. This is when like they would push each other to the wall. And so this is why I love Azerbaijan. This is where like this is probably the race where like I remember as like tempers are like boiling over. So that's
Sure,
probably why I liked it.
sure.
So yeah, let's go on to the Group C, right? Like they're kind of, I call it the good, like they're okay tracks. Um, and for me, it's Australia, USA, China, Mexico, France, and Hungary. And so yeah, I don't know. I think I think a lot of Formula One fans would disagree with me in France. I think they would probably argue that France should be a little bit lower, but I mean, trust me. Like, if you see the tier down, a tier lower, you would understand why I put France in here. So yeah, any thoughts, Wes?
Hungary, which is basically Monaco without the border, should be in Group B. France should be in Group lower than C. So if
Okay.
if you have a Group D, put them in Group D. China, I think the same thing. Australia is fine where it is. Uh, Good
Coda.
old America. That should be in Group B, and I think Mexico stays where it is. And the reason why I say that is, with China, I don't find that race interesting. It was pretty boring.
Okay.
I remember in 2019, um, it took place on my birthday, and I stayed up as much as I love Lewis, just to have everyone follow him. Like really, I stay up. I don't go to bed until like 3 in the morning for that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have much to say about China. France, same.
Okay.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to get off the track
Yeah.
and then come back in without any trouble,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that also stems from the gravel trap discussion that F1's been having
Right.
over the
It
past
doesn't it doesn't
few months.
punish drivers as much as
Right,
it should.
right. And they also, I mean, they say that the colors messed up the tires. Like, yeah, I haven't seen that. You know,
But yeah, like
uh,
what do you call it? I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There's some tracks in here that I would consider I like it. Like some of these are like some of my favorite tracks.
mhm,
Australia, China, and France, I would say is a good track. But because there is kind of a limited opportunity for great racing, that's why I put
right.
it here. I know you guys don't like France. I definitely don't like Hungary. I don't like the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Oh,
I think
why?
I don't know, man. Like it's literally just like the if you're not anywhere close to the guy in front of you, like there's no point in trying to undercut. Like there's if you try to undercut, you might go back into traffic, and then you're gonna lose that position. It, Hungary just doesn't provide a good enough racing for me. Probably like a good strategist might save the day for you in Hungary, but oh man, it's just I don't like the track. I don't like how there's just it goes down, it just goes down, and it's just a massive climb up, and then I don't know. I
I mean,
might be wrong.
that's why they call it that's why they call it Monaco without the borders, right?
I guess,
So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna have that mental acuity in the Monaco, you're gonna have that same mental acuity in Hungary.
but
So that's why I say it should be a
Monaco,
little bit higher.
Monaco is like it's a spectacle, like it's a
I
city.
Trust me, I get that, but I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know. Just because as someone who grew up as the geek all throughout his school days, I mean, I love it when
Okay,
there's a lot of mental strength involved.
okay,
But yeah, I mean, with the rest of the field, like USA, I actually find that race pretty interesting. Had the pleasure of watching um, Mercedes claim a championship there. Australia, you always got to have respect for the first race of the season.
right.
Although it is kind of a hard track, I will not lie. It looks cool, uh, but yeah, I can understand why it's not always the most attractive.
Okay.
And Mexico, it looks cool again, right? Just like Australia, you're going through a baseball stadium for God's sake, or an old baseball stadium.
Well, okay.
But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't seen any big action
Okay.
lately. I mean, when I watched last year's race, I think the only fun thing I saw there was Lewis's car being lifted up into the podium.
Okay. Okay. I mean, okay, so uh I will say this, probably like the USA, right? COTA, Circuit of the Americas. I don't really like the track. I think I don't know. I've watched, like I said, this is my first race. This was where I watched my first race. And obviously the first time I watched it, I was amazed, but like over the years it just didn't really pose great racing for me. I will say this to anyone listening. I think if you watch IndyCar going to Coda, I think it's a lot more interesting. It pretty You could watch the drivers rustle their cars around some of these corners, and these corners are not they're not easy to go around, especially in IndyCars. So I definitely urge people to watch Coda in IndyCar instead of Formula One. You probably enjoy a much faster lap time in Formula One, but like I think the racing is a lot more intense in Indy around this track in this particular track. Mexico, I think it's unique because it's the highest in terms of like sea level of all the tracks, and so the air is so thin. That's why like the past 3 times we've gone there, 2 of them have been going to Red Bull. And back then, Red Bull. This year, it's more about Mercedes with the highest downforce, but back then, Red Bull possessed the highest downforce car, or the car with the most highest downforce, and so it was interesting. That was the track where we were always looking forward to, that the Red Bulls could easily steal from the Mercedes. So maybe that's why I kind of enjoy it a little bit more. And so yeah, any more thoughts on that, Wes?
I'm good here.
Okay, cool. So now let's go to the bad tracks. I think these tracks need to go. I think they should be replaced. Um, I'm not saying like the fans here are bad. I'm just saying the track, the layout itself, it doesn't, you know, do any. It's featureless. Like there's nothing memorable about them. So number one, right? This might be controversial, but number one is Vietnam for me. Now we haven't gone to Vietnam, but
Nor will we ever.
nor will we ever, right? But it was in the 2020 Formula One game, and it's literally just straights. You could tell a lot of the cars that have the least drag in their car, probably the ones with the most powerful engines, will definitely do good. There's a lot of heavy braking zones. There's a huge hairpin. I think it's in the middle of the second sector. But yeah, for me, it wasn't really that interesting. And so, yeah, my others are Spain, Singapore, and Russia. Any thoughts, Wes?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I am in agreement with 3 out of the 4.
Okay.
So Russia, I didn't really like the track when I first started watching Formula One full time. And then, of course, what happened this season kind of explained why I should hate it, a la Carlos Sainz, in that runoff area that they designated.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, Carlos will go back and say that he calculated it or whatever,
Right.
but
Right.
still, it looked a little small to me,
Okay.
given how big the cars are, right?
Right. Right.
And how congested that area is, because it looked like he was going to hit somebody anyway.
This
right?
is such a great track for Carlos. If you don't remember, Carlos actually recorded the highest impact from Formula One car here. He recorded a 46 G impact, He just went.
Jesus
He just went straight on.
Christ.
Yeah, he just went straight on into one of the barriers. I think he had a brake problem. That was
Oh my
early.
God.
That was early on. That was during his Toro Rosso days. But yeah,
Still, that's scary.
that is scary. He had to be carted off, and so yeah,
Sure.
more on that later. But
But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, Russia, I don't know. There's nothing really interesting about it, if you ask me.
okay,
Um,
yeah, I
because
agree.
and because of the parameters too, it doesn't really. I don't know, something about it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's so weird
Spain,
too, right? Like it's so weird. Like I think right after Russia we go to Singapore, and then before or maybe right after Singapore we go to Russia. I'm not sure entirely what the order is, but it feels like it's the most out of place
it is
track.
Singapore and Russia because you have it at 16 and 17.
And then after Russia we go to Japan, right? I
You
think
have that at 15. No, yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I'm sorry, 18. Yeah, for the listeners,
oh
we have
yeah.
the sheet here, but you
Okay,
all
okay.
can't see that. But I'm sure for those who understand the calendar, um, that it would sound right on, and you'd be able to answer for us. But yeah,
Yeah.
Singapore is before Russia, but yeah, I mean, they're on the right side of the world. But
Right.
moving on, with Spain, yeah, it's a test track.
It's a test
Come
track.
on, it's only good for a one car, one lap. I don't know if that will change with the smaller cars in later iterations of F1, but for right now, I don't
Yeah.
know. There
Maybe keep it
doesn't
as a
seem
test
anything.
track. The
Yeah, there
preseason
doesn't
track.
seem anything too interesting there,
Right.
except for fun fact: when you do sim racing, you do that spin on that like S corner there.
Right. Yeah.
But the real cars don't do that. So I was like, oh, what the heck? But side note, I don't find anything interesting about Spain, except for when they do testing, because it's cool to see an F1 car go around in like February.
Right.
But yeah, Vietnam, I don't know too much about it. So not too many comments there.
Okay.
Singapore, I think should be higher.
Okay.
Maybe it's because I have a soft spot for Singapore. Maybe it's also because something about, street race at night, high
Okay.
speed, high heat, something
Uh,
about it just catches the marketability of the race,
probably
you know.
yeah. When it rains, probably it'll be more interesting. But yeah, I don't know. Singapore is even the presenters would admit that it's not the best track for overtaking, but it is spectacular to watch
I
during the
mean, it's
night.
like, right, it's literally Fast and Furious, but organized. Because look, think about it. Lots of shifting,
Right.
fast cars, no nitrous, but DRS. But the night, and Singapore nightlife is very lively. It's very bright.
Right.
Um, all the all the big people, and by big people I mean net worth, come
Right.
out to play and watch that race. Doesn't matter if they're Singaporean or not. And every now and then, or I mean, maybe for the last few seasons, you get to see a gold helmet with a Mercedes logo on it, and that's pretty cool. But yeah, no, I like Singapore actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Monaco, right? No real place to overtake,
Right.
but
Probably the probably it's also one of those track where the qualifying is a little bit more intense than the racing itself.
sure. But yeah, it's like it's just the marketability of it, and the cars do look good running through those streets.
Right. Right. They do.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, to your point, Jared. Yeah, I think it's more of a one lap track.
Yeah.
That otherwise we wouldn't get comments of our guy Lewis saying, "That's when I knew I was the one with the car," or something like that. Something very, very sentimental and borderline sensual. But
All right.
anyway, yeah, that is
Yeah.
that is my takes on Group D. One should be a little bit higher, maybe in Group C, but the
Okay.
rest can stay where they are.
Okay. And then so let's move on to the worst, absolute worst track in my opinion. Now, I think they got the location correct, right? Like it's next to next to the Caspian Sea, right? It's beautiful when the sun sets, and it's beautiful when the lights are all on, and that's Abu Dhabi. However, the track itself, I don't know if this is true, but there was this thing, like I think Herman Tilke was the one that pretty much designed a lot of the tracks for Formula One. But I think he took all the best features from all the best tracks in the Formula One calendar, and then they kind of sculpted this track, all the best features of every track, and sculpted to make this track. But the track is nothing like it's really featureless. And we saw, a couple years ago, when Fernando was making a run at Sebastian Vettel's title run, defense, or yeah, when Fernando Alonso was in Ferrari and Sebastian Vettel won his first championship at Red Bull, Sebastian Vettel pretty much crossed the finish line P1, but Fernando Alonso needed to get past Petrov, and he couldn't. And that's why the DRS is born, right? The year after, they created the DRS so that it's a lot easier to pass on the straights. Fernando Alonso was so frustrated that he couldn't get past Petrov. He claimed that Petrov pretty much just blocked him throughout the entire race. But yeah, I mean, Abu Dhabi is just... aside from the straights, there's not really a lot of places where you could pass. Now, Carlos Sainz proved me wrong when he passed both Ricardo and Hulkenberg to get that one last point and win the best of the rest last season. But yeah, I don't know. For me, Abu Dhabi is definitely the track that I don't look forward to. I think there should be a better track. I think, in my personal opinion, I think Formula One should end at Interlagos, at Brazil, every single year. It's a great track. I don't know if they're ever gonna. I don't know why it has to be at night. But yeah, I really just don't like the Abu Dhabi track. I'm not saying I don't like the location. I think it's beautiful. But yeah, I just don't like Abu Dhabi.
Interesting.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I don't like the Yas Marina circuit, not Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
Okay.
I don't find anything interesting about Yas Marina circuit except for like the backdrop and I guess what outside of it has to offer.
Right.
Right. But yeah, other than that, it's like it's another track where if you're at the front, all you got to do is hold the position, right?
Right.
Granted, there are some parts that look a little interesting. I think it's that near that hotel or whatever.
Yeah.
There's that open area where you can go wide, and all of a sudden there's like a low speed corner going left right after that. I was just like, whoa, that's a little. But then again, that's why Formula One drivers are Formula One drivers.
Right.
Right. But yeah, nothing really too interesting there. I mean, if you ask me, while we're still talking about it, where the last race should be, maybe why not in America?
Coda.
Yeah, why
I
not?
guess. Yeah.
I mean, Texas in December is not cold. I mean, granted, last year's race was a little bit of an anomaly. It's generally not that cold around the time of where they usually have the USGP. But think about it. I mean, Americans love finales. They love it when, they are the best for last.
Right.
And you think about it, oh my gosh, the way they introduce the drivers is like the same way they introduced the Dallas Cowboys. Right? And I think right now Texans would rather see those guys in their helmets rather than those guys with the Blue Star helmets. Right?
At the moment. You don't know.
Moment, yes. But yeah, I mean, I think that's how you can also help viewership in America.
I guess.
Like you market it as, you guys are the last race. You guys are the best for last, or something like that. And I think that'll get American racing fans, like especially those that are deep rooted in NASCAR and IndyCar and ARCA or in Rally USA, to be like, ooh,
Yeah.
Formula One's here,
Wait,
and the spotlight's on us, and nothing else after that
I guess.
or next season. But yeah, I don't know. That's just me.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's that's a great point. If we do want to capture American audiences, why not make the finale in America? But yeah, I also want to correct myself because I said that the Yas Marina circuit is next to the Caspian Sea. It's not. It's actually the Persian Gulf. I just want to correct myself before we move on and we miss the opportunity. So yeah, that's how you know. That's how you know how bad I am in geography. So yeah, yeah. I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, any more thoughts on?
I appreciate you for taking the time to fix that up. I actually did not know that, so that goes to show my geography skills. But yeah, no, I'm good here, Joy. Let's keep going.
Okay, cool. And so yeah, now let's just move on to this weekend's race, right? We're back. We're back at Turkey. We're back at the Turkish Grand Prix. I don't know what the track name is, but like remember 2011, the Turkish Grand Prix. I remember it because I watched it a couple days ago when Michael Schumacher was in the Mercedes and Sebastian Vettel just pretty much ran off with the win. That's what he did back then in the Red Bull. I might be mistaken. I think it's 2012 or 2013. But yeah, I'll make sure. But yeah, I remember this track being great for racing, right? That's why so many fans are so excited to see it back onto the calendar. Um, Now we got a taste of the modern Formula One cars today or early this morning, really early in this morning. I remember it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I remember seeing that there was a notification on my phone saying that FP1 was halted because of a red flag. But yeah, first practice was interesting. Did you?
I did,
Okay.
or at least the highlights. Granted, so for our listeners, again, we are based in the United States, and we are in the central time zone. So free practice was really early this morning,
Right.
and generally for us working people, we wouldn't be up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. Five
I
maybe, but
wasn't
not,
up
but not.
until 12 p.m.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, but yeah, I did see the timings and some of the highlights, and you know what? The notion of cold weather that has been discussed earlier in the week by all the F1 pundits. It's coming into play,
Right, right.
and it's not to say that an F1 car for this year's spec is not capable of going around that track. It
Right.
can. I mean,
It
obviously,
can, but with the
people
yeah,
set times,
right, right,
but with the resurfacing and the cold temperatures, it doesn't really help anyone's cause,
right,
especially Pirelli's
right,
for the
right.
tire.
And so
Like it's. Go ahead. Yes.
yeah, and so I think that will bring an exciting race, right? Because then these teams won't have that much data to work with. If you can't pretty much show uh, a representative time, then it's more about track acclimatization, right? It's more about like the drivers learning the track than it is about gathering data. Well, I'm only talking about FP1, and so yeah, I wanted to discuss FP1 times, right? So Max Verstappen was P1 this morning. He posted a 135. Now, interestingly, that time is 10 seconds slower than Juan Pablo Montoya, who I think holds the record for the fastest time. Now,
That's correct.
yeah, I predict that this time will I predict that record won't hold once qualifying starts. I think that 135 isn't representative of any of these cars. I think they're a lot faster than that, and so I think we're gonna see it in FP3 tomorrow, and then for sure qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it can only get better, right? Um, because the teams will be able to at least figure out what went right today and what didn't.
Right.
Um, like if you're Mercedes, you got to figure out, okay, what can we do? Because let's take Lewis again, for example. He was P15,
Right.
Bottas in P9 after FP1. And then I think they rounded out the top five going into FP2. So there goes to show that there's improvement.
Right.
Of course, and that's going to trend upward later. But it's really going to be interesting, not only for the front runners but also for the midfield, right? So
Okay.
like with Renault, Racing Point, and McLaren, they're only separated by 1 point,
Okay.
and a lot are their drivers never been there before,
Right. And
and
so
you know McLarens are not that good in cold weather. Case in point, Nürburgring.
right.
So,
We'll see. We'll
um,
see.
yeah, we'll see.
Right.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, a lot to look forward to going into Sunday or tomorrow and Sunday.
Right. And so yeah, I also want to quickly bring up FP2 because Max Verstappen proves that these cars are a lot faster. They go 7 seconds faster from FP1. Now that's because the track is a lot warmer in FP2. There's already rubber in the racing line, and that's when pretty much a lot of the more representative times. I think they're not gonna be. I don't think these are still the representative times, but they're getting closer. And so, I mean, 7 seconds from FP1 to FP2. I mean, that's a lot, right? So, I think it's gonna exponentially just get much more faster from here. And so, yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
Yes.
And so, based off of what we've seen so far, Wes, I just wanted to, before we get into the Bulls and Bears, give me who do you think is gonna be on the podium for the qualifying, just for the qualifying.
For the quali. Uh,
I'll probably give mine
is
first if you
Go
need
ahead.
to think about it. Yeah, so I think it's
Sure.
gonna be Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton. I think Verstappen really loves this track, and so I think it shows in the final practices. So I expect him to take pole position tomorrow.
Well, in third, I have Valtteri Bottas. In second, I have Max Verstappen. And in first, I will have the reigning,
Lewis.
defending champion of the world, Lewis Hamilton.
I mean, that's possible, right? Because Hamilton seems to, you know, shave a little bit of time, a little bit more time in Q3 than everyone else. It seems like he finds the fastest lines around the track. Even though like Bottas would dominate all the practice sessions and pretty much Q1 and Q2, but then in Q3 he just doesn't get the pole position. And so, yeah, I mean, definitely valid a valid argument there for Hamilton.
For sure. Let's see how it shakes out tomorrow.
All right, so let's move on.
So, we have a new segment for all you listeners, and this segment is called Bulls and Bears. Now, this has nothing to do with Red Bull or the Chicago Bulls or any basketball fans um, that follow the podcast, but it is drivers. So, three drivers. Joy and I will pick three drivers that we think are going to trend upward,
Right.
a la the Bulls, and three drivers that we are going to stay away from, a la the Bears. And of course, for if there are any stock market or trading guys that listen, or people, I should say, not guys, not just guys, people that listen to our podcast, I'm sure you will appreciate that. So, my Bulls for the week are the world champ, Lewis Hamilton, and I mean it. I think he's going to clinch it this weekend. because it's there for the taking. If you're that great and you smell blood in the water, there's no reason for you to back off. No reason. Especially when it's a track that you've done heroics at before. My next bull, Max Verstappen. So, bull, Red Bull, whoop-de-doo, no pun intended. But, he is arguably the driver of the year. And he's been on record saying that he likes Istanbul Park. So, Jared, there you go.
Right.
Istanbul, Intercity Istanbul Park.
Istanbul, Bulls and Bears, Red Bulls.
Sure.
We got all the bulls
today. Haha, joy. Anyway, he's been in fine form. Like I said, he loves this track, at least from a perception standpoint. And, I don't see him not doing well. I don't see him getting screwed over by tires or whatever the case may be. My third bull, Charles Leclerc.
Okay.
And, he's been red hot in that not so red hot car. And
it's still red. It's still red, but the car performance is not.
Yeah, I mean, either way, he's another candidate for me to be like a driver of the year. Right.
Absolutely.
Because he's getting out of that car more than people thought he or even Sebastian Vettel would, and a little on Sebastian Vettel in a little shortly, but I mean, Charles, I don't see him losing his form, especially in a place like this where you can stamp your resume, stamp your legacy as one of Ferrari's best drivers to ever come through. Now my Bears. I'm going to put 2 and 1 here. Alex Albon, Sebastian Vettel.
Okay.
Now, as also armchair boxing analyst, it's obviously against the rules to hit somebody when they're down. But guess what? I'm going to play MMA on this segment and hit these 2 guys while they're down. Because I don't see their forms changing this week.
Okay.
And I understand they've been in terrible form all season. And yeah, Albon had a really good FP1, and Seb did not spin in any way, shape, or form. But that doesn't matter.
Right.
And I just need Seb to bring it home and start new with Aston Martin. And for Alex Albon, as much as I love him, I don't know what's going to happen to him. Whether it's being an F1 in general or at the Red Bull program. And my last bear, Carlos Sainz. Again, lead driver for McLaren.
Okay.
McLaren
Interesting.
are not doing well in cold weather this season. Of course, that kind of hurts his stock as he is going to be a Ferrari driver in waiting. But, of course, when you're the lead driver of the not-so-cold weather car team, of course I'm going to be a little skeptical about you.
Okay.
And to close out my share of the segment, and I'm sorry, Joy, my honorable mention, I really wanted to put him as part of the Bulls, but, of course, we can only pick 3. But if I had a chance to make it 4, it'll be Daniel Ricciardo.
Hey. Okay.
I mean, he's the one guy that is a class act on and off the track. Other drivers probably would have been like, screw you, Renault. It's all about me now. But no, Daniel is in form. He's part of the reason why Renault is in form. And, at the same time, they're kind of acting as if he's not going to leave.
Right.
But for what it's worth, if you're McLaren, you're at least getting more data from what you're going to get from him when he becomes your driver next season.
Okay, great.
How about you, Joy? Who are your Bulls and Bears?
Yeah, so my Bulls for this week is I'm going to try to spread it out a little bit more. I have Max Verstappen. Like I said, I think he enjoys this track. I think you could see it in FP1, FP2. But we've seen before, I think Red Bull are opportunistic. Whenever there's a track that Max is very comfortable with, they usually put on the mediums on Q2. And so that means that he'll start on the mediums during the race. And so I think, Max definitely poses a bigger threat to Lewis and Bottas than what we might think this week. I still do believe that Hamilton will clinch the title this week. But yeah, even we saw it last week in Imola where the Red Bulls are making progress. They were able to keep up with Bottas. Now, granted, Bottas had damage, but yeah, keep an eye on Verstappen. One of the bulls that I think that you put as one of your bears that will do great this week is Carlos. Now, obviously, you pointed out that the McLarens aren't really good in cold weather. However, I don't think that, I think that they will try to take a grasp or a firm hold of the championship. I'm picking Carlos because the championship battle between Renault, Racing Point, and McLaren are so close, right? They're just 1 point apart, and so I think now it's now or never. And I think if they can clinch a really good result here, I think it'll come a long way, especially when it comes to the tracks that were going up, right? That are upcoming. Bahrain is more of a powered track, and that's where I think the McLarens kind of lack, right? They don't have the highest or the most powerful engines. I would argue that it's Racing Point that has that, and so yeah, I think we should watch for signs. It's a twistier track, so it should be well suited for the McLaren. But like you pointed, it is a cold track. It is a cold weekend, so hopefully, yeah, they'll do a little bit better. And one of the bulls, I think it's also my last bull is George Russell. I think that we're gonna see, after embarrassing himself in Imola, I think we're gonna see a turnaround for George. Now he doesn't have the best car under him or on him, and so it's gonna be tough. But I think George he's unbreakable. He will pretty much just that's one of the greatest things about that great drivers have is amnesia, right? They don't linger in the past, and so I don't think George is any type of that driver. So I think he'll do great this weekend, and so yeah, hopefully he gets his first point, right? He threw away the points in Imola, so I think this is his time, and so
that would be oh yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that would be a driver of the day.
Right. That would be
because he is going to be starting from the back of the grid.
Right. Well, yeah.
So
unless he pulls out an incredible qualifying, like he has in the previous races.
Well,
so yeah.
Well, that's the thing, Joy. I don't think that matters because of the engine changes he put for this week.
Right. So yeah, we'll see.
But if he can bring it home in the points, he's
definitely gonna be.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, I forgot he's taking engine penalties. So, but yeah, great point. But yeah, I think he'll still be a bull to watch.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, my three bears are gonna be. I think this is the only one that we share on the same category. Number one for me is Albon. I do think that this might be Albon's last year in Red Bull. I do think that Red Bull are now starting to look elsewhere. Now, unless Albon gets an incredible result, the only incredible result I would see is for him to, be in the podium. Pretty much split the Mercedes. I'm pretty sure Red Bull would prefer Max winning this race. And so if he could just split the Mercedes, I think that'll prove that, okay, there's still something there that they could work with. But I don't see it. I think he still hasn't come to terms with that car. He still can't wrap his mind around it. And so, yeah, I think he's going to struggle. I think he's going to struggle this week. And so, yeah, but my other bear is Grosjean, right? Grosjean, he doesn't have a good car under him. We've said that in the past, but Grosjean, he also doesn't do well when it comes to wheel-to-wheel racing, and that's what this track promotes. So I don't think, it's gonna help anyway this season. I mean, by the way, I just want to say, like, for all these bears, I want them to. I'd be happy to come here next week and eat my words, right? So, but yeah, the other bear, I think. Now this is gonna be a shock to everyone. Is Ricardo? I think after all that good result, that good string of result, I've watched Ricardo. He's my favorite driver. I just want to put that out there. But after a string of like really good results, there's usually that performance of Ricardo where he kind of just like, what are you doing? And so I don't think I don't think it's gonna be that bad, but I don't think he's gonna score any points this week. So, but yeah, we'll see. I'm probably gonna eat my words, especially on Ricardo, especially that I think Renault has probably the third best car on the grid right now, and so yeah, those are my bears, my bulls and bears.
Interesting. But hey, anything can happen.
Right.
That's how Formula One is, and that's the beauty of it.
Like I said, right? I mean, I'm happy to eat my words next week. I'm
for
happy
sure.
to for any of these
For
guys to
sure.
prove me wrong. Yeah.
Absolutely. I know when to put my pride on the shelf, and I hope that CS turns it around. Now, Sebastian and Alex, I don't know. If you ask me, those are pretty safe picks.
Okay.
But we'll see. And anything can happen, even with my Bulls. So
If
yeah, let's.
if Ricardo gets a third podium this year, I will drink from my shoe. I will do a shoey, and I will post it on social media.
Oh boy, you heard it first. You heard it here first, folks.
Now,
Joy is gonna do a shoey if DR gets on the podium.
I mean, because you already know that there's going to be 3 drivers on the podium. It's just whether he can get there too. So I think it's pretty safe this week. So
you know what? Fine. I will do this then. It's not gonna be as demanding as a shoey, but if DR gets on the podium, I will wear an odd color combination of yellow and orange at some point this week.
Right. And just to put it out there, you are very critical of the Renaults, so.
And something about orange too, as much as I love McLaren. So yes, but yes, that is Bulls and Bears.
I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say that you were gonna get a tattoo.
Well, we can maybe talk about personal aspirations in another episode.
Okay.
But once again, that is Bulls and Bears, everyone. Let us know what you think about that new segment.
Yeah.
Whether we should keep it or bin it. But
absolutely.
Now that that's out of the way, we want to introduce another segment that Joy has developed for this week. Joy?
Yeah, and so this is probably not going to be like a recurring segment on the show. This is definitely just one of the things that I found. It was an article by WTF1 that they posted all the crazy fun ideas that Bernie Ecclestone pretty much had for Formula One when he was in charge. And so this segment's going to be just me and Wes kind of giving our ideas to make Formula One even more exciting. Now, for sure, these ideas may never ever be implemented. That's kind of the point of it, right? That's kind of the fun, especially with Bernie, right? Thank God he's gone, because my gosh, if any of these ideas were to, and by the way, some of these ideas were about to introduce into Formula One. Thank God someone with logic denied them. And so, just to give you an idea, Bernie Ecclestone said that Formula One should be more dangerous. And so, that kind of gives you an idea of like what kind of idea, like that kind of gives you an idea of what kind of an idea he has. Well, yeah, whatever. But that kind of gives you an idea of how Bernie saw Formula One. He even commented that he was disappointed to see Alonso climb out of his car safely when he had that massive McLaren crash in the first year of the partnership between McLaren and Honda. That is scary. That's a scary, thing to hear, especially from a guy that had a lot of power in Formula One at that time. So yeah. Let's introduce our ideas. I'll start it off. So one of my biggest ideas is that there's been huge claims throughout the years of Formula One cars, the incredible engineering milestone that we were able to achieve, that these cars have so much downforce that they could pretty much drive in a tunnel, upside down in a tunnel. And so one of my crazy ideas is my Bernie Ecclestone ideas, is implementing a track in Formula One that features an upside down. Now, yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, you could go off in the comments to see if any of these things could ever go through, but I doubt this one would ever go through. And secondly, is that I think Formula One missed a great opportunity. Right, the engines of Formula One have been a major discussion recently, because it doesn't seem as though we're that eco-friendly, right? The carbon footprints of Formula One is a lot greater than what the cars produce on track, right? We do travel around the world, and the carbon emissions that are being emitted from the planes, from the cargo ships, and the freight, the freight trucks that pretty much transport the teams and the cars, it's a much bigger carbon emission footprint than we've initially thought. And so, but I think Formula One misses opportunity to utilize the reverse gear. I think Formula One cars should go just as fast backwards, or maybe just as fast backwards as they would be going forwards. Now imagine the PR. These cars can pretty much beat any other circuit cars going reverse. I think that would have definitely turned some heads. Now I don't know if you would want to implement that on track, but yeah, I think we missed a huge home run in that terms.
Oh my God, Joy. Well, for your first one, for the listeners, that just goes to show how much Hot Wheels Joy had in his childhood. He wants freaking cars to go upside down.
Williams would be terrified. Williams would be terrified.
I'm sure they would, but I don't know. I mean, that's interesting. Yeah, it's like turning literally Formula One into Hot Wheels. If you were to ever get that proposed. Now, the second thing, the reverse gear. I can imagine Lewis or somebody going 200 plus kilometers an hour in reverse.
Could you imagine? Well, I mean, then it
I
would
can't
be...
imagine it. But what I can't imagine is the talent that they're gonna and the training that they're gonna have to take, because there's no rear view mirror.
There is no rear view, but
in the car.
Imagine it would be pretty much a front wheel drive Formula One car.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything.
But
especially if you can't see.
I mean, this is Bernie Ecclestone's ideas. Oh, not his ideas, but this is the Bernie Ecclestone segment. I think we missed a home run. Imagine being Formula One is the leading technology for reverse gear.
Maybe a single run, not a home run.
And so what were your ideas for these Bernie Ecclestone?
Okay, so my Bernie Ecclestone ideas are, I guess, a little bit more technical.
Okay.
Rather than cosmetic, which is what your approach was, Joy.
Right.
But I can imagine Formula One being all-wheel drive. So a
Ooh.
four-wheel drive racing car. Imagine, because like you look at Toyota out in WEC, and you can just everyone talks about mechanical grip. Everyone gets a hard on for grip, right? So why don't we in the future have a I don't know a 1,000 1,100 horsepower car, fully electric, all-wheel drive?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I mean,
And
yeah,
the
go ahead.
downforce on top of that, it's like you're literally gonna be. It's like you're racing slot cars. You're never gonna really go off unless you're a complete idiot. And I don't know. That's my first idea. My second idea maybe is I don't know if this would improve safety or make safety worse, but removing the center pillar from the halo.
It would literally be a halo on top of cars, up on top of drivers' heads. Then.
I mean, because there's something unattractive about having a freaking pillar where your nose bridge would be, right?
Right. I
And
guess.
I
Yeah.
mean, I understand it's gonna actually maybe block any kind of flying object coming at you.
But not every
Uh,
flying object.
Not every flying object,
Right.
but the likelihood of you getting hit in the head with something will be lower because of the bar, the upper crossbar, and the center pillar. But you know, I'm sure these guys want to be able to see what's in their center. So why not remove the center pillar and maybe replace it with a windscreen, like an IndyCar?
Ah.
I
Yeah.
don't know, Joy. What's your take on the all-wheel drive uh, Formula One
Yeah.
car and the I don't know the non I guess center pillarless fighter jet looking Red Bull X 2010
Yeah. Absolutely.
uh,
Uh.
monocoque.
Yeah. I think. I don't know. Maybe it's like a European thing that they think that rear wheel drive is is a little bit more sporty. I don't know. That's kind of just the assumption that I get, but also like that four wheel drive like only belongs in like rally cars. But I like that idea. You know, four wheel drive. I think then it'll make Formula One a little bit more unique. I will say this: I think it was Brabham, early in the years of Formula One, like in the '70s. Yeah, I think it was in the '60s or '70s that I believe it was Brabham that actually put four wheels in the back of towards the back axle, rear axle of the car, which made it a four wheel drive car. Now, of course, they banned it, but yeah, that's an interesting take, because pretty much the cars that we compare Formula One to are the LMP ones, and the Toyota LMP one you could say is pretty much the fastest LMP one car to date, and they are four wheel drive with four motors, right? Four motors that power each wheel. So yeah, I think that'll be very interesting. However, I do think that Formula One and its organizers are very keen to keep it at the rear wheel, and so yeah, that's interesting. And yeah, I think we've also spoke about how I think the future of Formula One, in terms of safety, is not a halo or a combination of a halo or a canopy, but just a canopy, like a canopy that pretty much resembles a jet fighter. That's where I think Formula One is headed to. I think if they could put it on jets, why not put it in a Formula One car? And so yeah, I mean those are great, interesting ideas, and these are topics that absolutely took months of discussions, even in the Formula One fan base, and so yeah, those interesting points.
I appreciate that. But yeah, no, I mean, again, for our listeners, the likelihood of either one of these happening is relatively low,
Relatively low.
at least as of today. But hey, it doesn't hurt to dream.
Right.
And we encourage you to leave your thoughts on what you think would be an interesting addition or useful addition to F1.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, yeah, let's get a little bit more serious now, right? Like let's go to the Formula 1 news now. This news isn't really, breaking news. It's been here for a while. We were kind of waiting for any details. It might have come up. That might have come up. But Formula One is adding Saudi Arabia to the calendar next season, and there are some mixed reactions toward the race. And so, yeah, your thoughts, real quick, Wes.
Well, it came to me as a surprise,
Right.
because the Formula One calendar is already pretty long as it is. And looking back on it, it's kind of interesting because as they add in Saudi Arabia, they drop Vietnam
Right.
for next year. And a little bit more on the new calendar shortly. But especially with the backlash that it's been getting from the general public with human rights and whatnot, I mean, the Saudi government believes that this is the kind of thing that will get Saudi on the map to be in the good graces of the people, but I doubt that. I really do.
Right.
I mean, what makes you think that cars that are capable of going 300 kilometers an hour around your city, one of your main cities, is going to change the overall perception of what your goons or bad people have been historically known to do? And of course, you can also apply that to places like Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, Russia, China. But at the same time, I understand there's money to be made. But at the same time, your message of "We race as one" is a little bit compromised. So a part of me feels like it's kind of cool to see a different country on the calendar, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it kind of doesn't really make all that much sense.
Yeah.
Especially with how strict the rules there or the culture is, as well as the human rights controversies that go with that country.
Right. And so, yeah, I definitely agree with you. From based on what we know, the only details that we do know is that it's going to be the second to last race in the upcoming season. And so that's pretty much, like, in terms of details, what we know. We don't even know how the track looks. We don't even know pretty much where it's going to be located. I think it's going to be in the center of pretty much. It's pretty much going to be in the center of, like, the metropolitan area of Saudi Arabia, right? But yeah, I definitely agree. It really infuriates me when Formula One adds a new race to the calendar. I've always thought that 20 to 21 is okay. Like, thank God that, I mean, I'm not saying thank God, but, like, we did drop Vietnam, right? And so, because Formula One needs to start thinking about not only just the drivers, but the employees, the mechanics that work in Formula One. Because these mechanics, they only have like 3 months of break in between season to probably just spend time with their family. And when Formula One talks about adding, having at least 25 or 24 races into the calendar, then to me that kind of rubs me the wrong way, because like in the beginning of the show, I thought we were gonna lose Interlagos, we were gonna lose Brazil, a track that's perfectly fine, that we never really complained about, and then you're gonna add a track in Saudi Arabia, you know. And so, yeah, I never really understood why Formula One always wanted to add more tracks to the calendar. I thought 20 to 21 is great, but not only that, you pick a location, you pick a country that is pretty much that has a history of violating human rights, you know. Now I'm not saying that all the countries in Formula One are perfect, you know, the just the way that they are, but like it's a hot location, you know, especially with all the money that's flowing in Saudi Arabia. It doesn't really seem like Formula One is there to bring a great message to all the spectators about human rights. It kind of seems as though it come across as though money talks louder, right? Like they're just chasing money, and you know, I've always heard that like Formula One is chasing a Saudi Arabia race because it is pretty much it is a very rich country. It has a lot of money, but you know, if you're gonna do this, what do you call it? A couple days ago, they announced that the W Series is now gonna be a part of the Formula One family or the Formula family, and I hope, right, like because they haven't released the calendar for the W Series, I
Hmm.
hope that the W Series goes to Abu Dhabi, right? Because then you can't announce the W Series, you know, joining Formula and Saudi Arabia joining Formula, but not racing in these countries that really do violate the human rights, any human
And
rights, and so
and you mean also addition or to add to that, male-dominated societies?
right, absolutely, and so I think it would be worth it. It would be worth going to Saudi Arabia if you put the W Series calendar, you know, in Saudi Arabia. So yeah, I think
No,
those
yeah,
are
I
just my thoughts.
sure, yeah, no, that's a really interesting point, and I think that's a really compelling argument that you make by adding the W Series
Right,
to those parts of the F1 calendar. And, big ups to Formula One for allowing W Series to be a feature
right, right.
for their sport. And with that being said, the
Yeah,
calendar,
the calendar,
uh,
man.
a, a lot of racing, a
Yeah,
lot of time away from home.
yep, absolutely. And
Do
so
you
yeah,
do you think that this would be sustainable long term?
um, I do think so. I think the way that the calendar is right now, right? We have 22, right? 22, 23 races next calendar. I think I think that's okay. Especially when Formula 1 is pushing a little bit more towards like a triple headers. Now, of course, I'm saying that, but then you know, it's very exhausting for a lot of the employees that work for these teams. Triple headers are definitely ones that Formula One shouldn't target. Um, but yeah, I think, like I said, you know, like I stated, 20 to 21, I thought was a perfect amount of racing, but also a perfect amount for the engineers. Not a perfect amount, but a good amount for the engineers to even just have time off the track. And so yeah, especially for the smaller teams, you know, you know, teams like Mercedes, they could have um, 300 or 400 people on holiday when these smaller teams like Williams or Haas, they can't afford to do that because then that would pretty much mean giving up the championship, giving up the all the hard work that they've done off season, and so yeah, yeah, I think this is they're gonna try to make it sustainable but hopefully, with the
Well,
new budget cap, I think
seems
we're gonna
like
see
we
a
have
little bit more.
lost Joy. Um, but what I do want to talk about with you, the listener, while Joy is finding his way back with us, is uh, what do you all think about the new calendar? Because personally, I think it's too much. I think at some point the calendar will go back to the 2021 races that um, they already have. Because, like Joy was mentioning, it is it is a lot of time, not only for the drivers, but also the employees and the mechanics. You know, they have lives, they have families. I forgot who it was that said this, but this person said, "Oh, you know, people are gonna lose their marriages because of the expanded calendar." And of course, you know, while that's somewhat perhaps a joke uh, from whoever said that, when you think about it in a really, really detailed sense, that could be the harsh reality for everyone. And I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So sorry, I went off tangent a little bit, but yeah, um, but yeah, I definitely agree. Like I said, pretty much a new addition to the new calendar for the upcoming season is it seems as though we are going to get a Saudi Arabia race, and it will be the penultimate. It will be the penultimate round of the championship, which is that's not bad because then they're back to back Abu Dhabi or yeah Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia are pretty much neighboring states or neighboring countries, so not a lot of travel going through there. So yeah. Was there any more that you wanted to add?
Well, overall, I'm just not a big fan of the calendar
Okay.
expanding. And also for us, the viewers, yeah, it might, for some of us, it might be great, but for a lot of us, it's just like, all right, well, it's starting to overlap with whatever sport I want to follow at this point in time.
Yeah.
But you know, you gotta give things a chance. And you know, I'm willing. At least I'm gonna sit here and say that I'm willing to take on an expanded race calendar,
Yeah.
at least for next season.
I mean, I only say that 20 to 21 is usually good enough because usually around maybe it's only because I don't like the track, but it's usually around Abu Dhabi where I'm kind of like the last race of the season where I'm kind of exhausted. I'm kind of like I just I would just wish the season was over. But that's probably me more being more critical of the track than anything
Sure,
else. And so
that's
yeah,
that's totally fair. Yeah,
and
no,
so
that's totally fair. And on that note, let's talk about another business metric, Joy.
yeah,
Something in the form of 30 million US dollars.
a
And for those that don't know what I'm talking about, it is that Formula One is looking to introduce a salary cap for its drivers
all right.
at $30 million. So for you all at home, think about how you would split $30 million over two guys or two people. Are you going
Oh,
to split it even?
is it per team? I didn't know that.
No, it's per team.
Ah, okay. Wow.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, are you going to split it even? Are you going to give one more than the other? Or are you going to overpay one and pay some kind of, I don't know, penalty that causes you to lose out on production money? I don't know. But my take on it is that we should have a strict salary cap in Formula One. And that is because I see it from a lens of coming from team sports. So you see that in the NBA, the NFL, in the NHL, they have a salary cap. They are able to have a team, whether it's good or bad, on a certain allocation of cash. And, you know, I feel that even in general, it can be argued that athletes make too much. You know, like $60 million or whatever, for example, for let's say someone like Lewis, right? It's like, are you going to be able to spend your whole lifetime with that? And are you going to be able to take that with you into the afterlife? Chances are, for the second question, the answer is no. But and also for us, the common man, the common person, $15 million, $30 million, whatever $1 million, that is a lot of money. So if you ask me, it's a team sport. We need to be not only mindful of ourselves, but also the livelihood of our employers, in this case, the teams, and do whatever it takes to give them as much as they need to give them the best product for us to work with. And of course, if you don't like it, I don't know what else to tell you. But Joy, what are your thoughts on the salary cap for Formula One?
I was initially I thought that it was just a salary cap for each driver. I didn't really know that it was going to be per team. And so it kind of surprised me because if it was going to be just per driver, it surprised me because then there was only three drivers really that were paying north or just right at 30 million. And that's Sebastian Vettel and Hamilton and Ricardo. And so for me, it was a little bit more of a surprise because, I didn't really think a lot of drivers even hope to reach that amount of money in their salaries. And so now now that I think it is going to be a little bit more per team, is going to be more per team based. I think I get it. Like it makes sense. I understand why Formula One wanted to mandate a rule or pretty much introduce this rule because we are gonna introduce a budget per team, and so, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure how I feel about this. I would probably need to research a little bit more. I just don't feel comfortable speaking about like something that I'm not really sure of, especially when it comes to people's salary. I do think that I'm probably against you, Wes. That I do think that drivers, they do have a lot of media exposure. They do a lot of interviews. A lot of these drivers sometimes don't really get the life that they want, or the privacy that they want, and so even just uttering someone's name in the form of pretty much just to start a conversation. I'm not saying that alone grants them massive salaries, but these are pretty much huge names in our sport. And so like a Schumacher, a Hamilton, a Vettel, these are huge names, and of course they're going to ask for a lot more money than what other drivers are receiving. And so yeah, I definitely don't I'm not really sure what to think about this. I think salary is it's a touchy subject, especially for in sports, right?
Well, sure. But of course, also looking at it from a management lens, you don't want to be a one idiot that overpays somebody,
Hey.
right? Especially in America, there are franchises, GMs that are willing to pay damn near their life savings account for this one player only for them to underperform for let's say they sign this person to a 5-year deal and they're just in poor form
Right.
most of those 5 years, and everyone then just looks at them. It's like, no, that's the dumbest signing you've ever done.
I will say this.
And,
I had economics teacher, and yeah, I had an economics teacher who pretty much said, and this surprised me, that he said that LeBron James, where he sits right now in his salary, he believes that LeBron James is underpaid because he does. I don't know what he kind of how he kind of got into this position, but he says like whenever you bring up LeBron James, you bring up the NBA, you bring up conversations of who the greatest is of all time, and LeBron James, you could say might be a little bit bigger than the NBA, right? I think he's done so much for his community, and just the name LeBron James might be more recognizable than the NBA. And so it surprised me when he said that. And so, I mean, that's probably where I'm going to lean towards when I research a little bit more about the salary cap.
Well, that is an interesting take by your Professor Joy, and
Right.
actually, I guess before we move on, I will say that I think LeBron is actually fine where he's at.
Okay.
But anyway, this again, back to the Formula One talk, and our takes on the salary cap. I guess we can revisit this
Right.
later when they actually enforce it.
Right.
So, yeah. But our next news topic here: team principal of Williams testing positive for COVID-19.
Right.
Scary, scary stuff.
Right.
Especially for a team that has gone through a lot this season.
Right. They definitely need all the members at their garage right now.
For sure. And I believe two other, I don't know their names off the top of my head, but two, I guess, in
Employees.
commands,
Yeah.
of Williams will be splitting the team principal duties. And, best of luck to them.
Right. Right.
And that is a reminder to everyone listening that, hey, this disease is real.
Right.
Doesn't matter what you think politically or from a health philosophy standpoint, but wash your hands, take some vitamin C, D, and zinc, social distance, and most importantly, wear a mask.
And yeah, I just wanna congratulate or like maybe praise F1 because they are, pretty much taking this on a whole nother level, right? Because they pretty much made sure because the test was, I think it was inconclusive. The
Mm-hmm.
first test for the Williams uh, acting principal.
Mm-hmm.
So they pretty much made sure that he had another test and that he wasn't going to spread it when they do arrive in Turkey. And so, yeah, it seems as though the system is working, right? The systems that they have for making sure that everyone is safe, that everyone is accounted for. And so, yeah, this is a very dangerous virus. And so
For
we want to make sure that, that everyone is safe, especially, at the end of the day, we're racing for fun, but, these are people's lives that are being affected.
for sure, and we wish Simon Roberts well, speedy recovery. We would love to see him back on the pit wall
Right.
for the rest of the season. And he's been, to me, doing a pretty decent job as the interim team principal for Team Williams.
Right.
So, yeah, and speaking of another team principal, Mattia Binotto will not be at the Turkish Grand Prix, citing that he wants to help develop the 2021 engine and is needed at the factory for Ferrari. So what does this mean? What does this mean in your eyes, Joy?
Oh, I'm sorry, Wes. Yeah, did you say something? You kind of cut off.
Oh, well, I said Mattia Binotto not showing up for this race. What do you think
Yeah.
this means?
No, I mean, yeah, I just want to say this before we move on, but like Mattia Binotto, I think they've spoken about Mattia Binotto not showing up for the Turkish Grand Prix 2 weeks ago. So I do think that this is based on performance. They're probably getting ready for next season. I don't think any of the upgrades are gonna be coming up. You know, any major upgrades are gonna come this season in for Ferrari. So it's much needed. I think they need him back into the factories. Um, and so, yeah, I think they need to focus on next season to make sure that they maybe just get P3 into the championships, right? They need to pretty much reestablish themselves as Ferrari, right? This is still the red team. That's pretty much this is still Ferrari. This is still the prancing horse, and so I think he's probably taking extra precautionary steps and a lot in making sure that they don't look anywhere close to their performance this year as they would be next season.
For sure. And for me, I mean, this just means that um, if you really are serious about 2021, you better show results. There's not much else for me to say on that.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, I mean, for Ferrari in general, I hope that they can meet or even exceed expectations for this week. But yeah, I mean, that's really what Mattia's absence means to me. And yeah, but anyway, here's to a good Turkish Grand Prix weekend, and we're hoping that the return does not disappoint.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so yeah, now let's move on to the section of the podcast where we cover boxing. And so Wes, can you please take us through Devin Haney's win over Gamboa?
Absolutely. So Devin Haney won a unanimous decision over Yuri Ortiz Gamboa last weekend, Saturday, at I believe it was the Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida. Real interesting setup. It's literally like a concert hall. Not to be funny, but Devin Haney almost tripped over a ringside ad and his ring walk, so figure I'd talk about that a little bit. But in terms of the actual fight, it felt like Devin Haney was wanting to fight a very sound, very technical, from the outside approach against Gamboa, and Gamboa really wanted to go in there and exchange. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and Devin Haney, very good defense, very good movement, and very good counterpunching all throughout the fight. He controlled the fight. To the casual fan, you might say, "Oh, Devin Haney's fight was boring," but if you're a fan of technical boxing, very defensive boxing, and the notion of if you don't move your head, your opponent will move it for you. That's what Devin Haney did with Yuri Ortiz Gamboa. And yes, fully understand that Gamboa is an ageless wonder, but he's at the point in his career where he's not worthy of a title contender. So, good on Devin for defending his title. And I feel like there's a lot of big names out there for him to pursue next.
Yeah, absolutely. And so pretty much, who do you think he should pursue next?
I would say someone that still has a establishment in the sport.
Okay.
So maybe I'm not sure, but maybe someone like, why not Vasily Lomachenko, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Or why not a Teofimo Lopez?
Teofimo seems to be the most popular one.
Leo Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz as well.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to fight more names. And I understand that he has a major world title.
Yeah.
And in the WBC lightweight belt, right? And he needs to be able to defend that world championship against credible names.
Right.
And unfortunately, he is not on the good side of marketing.
Yeah.
Even though he really has a big confidence about himself and he promotes himself, he's not really tied to a big promotion per se. I mean, he's on the zone, but outside of that, he says that he tries to promote himself. But he needs to fight established names first, beat them,
Right.
and maybe eventually he will fight Ryan Garcia.
And you know, we have kind of had this discussion before, where it seems as though they are kind of building up Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia and that division, to have a showdown later on in the future. Now, I mean, we also shared our thoughts on the upcoming fights for Ryan Garcia, but I do agree that I think Devin Haney should pretty much fight guys that pretty much made their names already in that weight division, right? It seems as though the popular fight now is gonna be him versus Teofimo Lopez. Now, I'm not sure if boxing is ready to unify all those titles together, right? Because I'm pretty sure it'll be just a title fight. Now, regarding Lomachenko fighting Devin Haney, I think Devin Haney would be smart not to fight Lomachenko right now. I do think Lomachenko is still very dangerous, and if they are trying to build Devin Haney versus a Ryan Garcia in the future, I definitely don't think that fighting Lomachenko right now is a it would build. I actually think Lomachenko could probably win against Devin Haney, but yeah, another name that pops up is Javante Davis, um, but now that's probably going to be a little bit more of a stretch. So yeah, probably that. I would like to see Devin Haney fight Jorge Linares,
Oh, sure.
or maybe even Luke Campbell after the Ryan Garcia fight. But yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see.
Sure. I could also argue that Richard Kami or Javier Fortuna would be good for him too.
Right, right.
Anybody in that top 10, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
but yeah,
we're not saying
yeah,
that
go.
we're not saying that Yuriorkis Gamboa is a slouch, but you know, not at all. But yeah, we do
I mean,
definitely
he's
want.
past it.
Right, right,
He's past it. There's no really other way to explain that.
right, right,
But
and
again, for what it's worth, props to Devin Haney for
taking on a
sticking
fight.
to his game plan and yeah, taking on a fight, especially when he's trying to build up his marketability as
Right,
a fighter.
right, right. And so yeah, um, yeah. So we could now move on to Luis Ortiz, so they call him. And so yeah, Luis Ortiz got a knockout victory pretty much in the first 15 seconds of the fight, um, in the first round. Uh, it wasn't really shocking to me. I thought he would just pretty much. I think he could just take him out in the first round, or I thought it was going to be a knockout, but I didn't think it was going to be the first round. It's weird though because it wasn't a clean punch. It was he actually Luis Ortiz actually hit his opponent in the forearm. Hold on. But yeah. But the interesting thing came after the fight, right? Where he called out. Um, yeah, he called out Andy Ruiz, and I think that'll be a good fight. I think Andy Ruiz has proven himself to be a great fighter. He has definitely a fast hands. I think he has the fastest hands in the heavyweight division. His combination punching is incredible. And I think it'll be a good fight to watch between Luis Ortiz, who has one punch knockout power, versus Andy Ruiz, who does have one punch knockout power, but he is more of a volume puncher, and he's a counter. He's a good counter puncher as well. So I think that'll be an interesting fight.
Oh, for sure. Now I will say, the opponent for Luis Ortiz, from what I read earlier in
Was
this
Flores.
week from
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you said Suarez,
No, Alexander Flores.
Flores. Okay,
Yes.
um, got a little staticky over the waves, but yeah. So I was reading on I think it was Bad Left Hook, that he's being investigated for how he went down in that fight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That the commission, I'm not sure what state was hosting that fight. If you can give that to me, Joy, that'd be great. But yeah, they're investigating and holding his fight purse because they feel that he may have had some kind of, I don't know, let's just say, for lack of a better term, political issue with going down and acting hurt by getting hit in the forearm.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, I mean, I didn't want to. Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that up. But there is still an investigation going on. And I don't want to. I don't want to. Say that he definitely went down on purpose. But I mean, this is an incredible forearm. He pretty much learned from Jack Dempsey, if that's the case. But yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely.
there is still an ongoing investigation for Alexander Flores. But because if you were to look at the fight, then it does seem to be fixed. But again, King Kong is trying to reclaim his name after losing to Deontay Wilder twice in a fight where he pretty much dominated every single round. And so, you know, I, boxing is political. We've seen that in the past, and this might be another representation of it. I don't want it to be, but these are the kind of things that hurt boxing, that kill boxing, and yeah, hopefully that's not the case.
For sure. But yes, I think, but from a matchup standpoint too, I do think Andy Ruiz versus Luis Ortiz would be a very good fight.
Right, right.
And will any one of those guys get to meet the kings at a heavyweight division? That is yet to be known. For now, props to Luis Ortiz for getting it done.
Right, right. Absolutely. And so yeah, I mean, I've been vocal about a possible Andrew Ruiz versus Deontay Wilder fight. I think the styles that these two have are great for one another, but if I get Luis Ortiz versus Andrew Ruiz, I'm very happy with that. You know, and so I'm very excited for that fight.
For sure.
And so yeah, we could move on to the upcoming fight this tomorrow. It is Terrence Crawford versus Kell Brook. This is gonna be interesting, right? We haven't seen Kell Brook in a while.
Terrence Crawford, for that matter.
Right. Terrence Crawford as well. And so, yeah, who do you think? Who do you think will win? Any predictions from you?
I say Bud in 8, and for our listeners, Bud is Terrence Crawford.
Okay. Was there any deciding factor that you think that Bud might?
Well, I mean, for me, it's going to be the ultimate test for both guys,
Right.
right? Because we haven't seen him in a long time. But, to me, as good as Special K is, he doesn't pose too big of a threat for Terrence Bud Crawford. And Crawford is a really, really smart fighter for more than what people give him credit for.
Right.
And I feel like at some point, maybe around the midway point, or even a little earlier, Bud will figure him out and probably take over and try and go for the kill in 8.
Right. And yeah, I think I will agree with you in this one. Now, I do have a kind of a bad feeling about this one. I do think Kell Brook has something that he might use against Terrence Crawford, right? He's lost against Errol Spence Jr. and Errol Spence is a fantastic boxer, but I do think he's not as good as Bud. But yeah, like I don't know. I just have this kind of gut feeling. You know, when you think that there's a fight that's just not gonna go well. I
Sure.
had this kind of feeling with Lomachenko and Teofimo, where it's not gonna be as people expected, because I expected Lomachenko to win, to have like at least a majority decision, but obviously that didn't go as planned, and so I don't know. Is 2020 the year of upsets? I guess that's what it comes down to for me. Like, is this gonna be an upset for Kell
Hey,
Brook?
it's possible.
It's
It's
possible.
possible. It's a very valid reasoning, and I'm afraid for him too, especially since and by him I mean Terrence Crawford, because Terrence Crawford carries a major title in the WBO title,
Right.
and he is outside of Tyson Fury. He is Bob Arum's pride and joy right now. So that would be a shot to the gut, literally,
Right. Right.
if Bud does not come out on top in this match.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, there's not much difference between them. There's only like a 1 inch difference in height. I'm not really sure about the reach. I actually think Terrence Crawford has a slight longer reach than Kell Brook, but we've seen Kell Brook fight, and he's more like he will get inside if he needs to. Crawford is a little bit more technical. He can use southpaw stance, he can use orthodox. But yeah, that all that can be negated if you have a terrific game plan, just like Teofimo.
Absolutely.
Cool. And so yeah, also another fight that was announced. I'm not sure, was it announced, Wes? The Canelo Alvarez versus Callum Smith, or it seems as though it's likely to be Callum
As
Smith.
far as I'm concerned, they are all but signed.
Okay, cool.
Canelo Alvarez and Callum Smith.
Okay, and yeah, maybe you could speak about this one. Because yeah, have
So,
you ever seen have you we've witnessed Canelo fight many times, but I for one have never seen Callum Smith fight. So yeah.
well, it's still in the talking stage, and of course, Canelo has been in the airwaves lately in boxing because he has recently gotten a successful release from his promotion with the Zone
Right.
and Golden Boy Promotions. And yes, I haven't seen too much of Callum Smith. It's also kind of hard, right, when your following is across the pond in the UK and Matchroom is not really that big of a presence here
Right.
yet. So, but yeah, that's the rumor going on right now.
Right.
And they feel that this fight could take place in either AT&T Stadium in Dallas or Alamo Dome in San Antonio,
Uh,
Texas.
okay, so it's definitely not gonna be
And
in Wembley.
no, no,
Okay.
no, no. And well, for December, it's going to be too cold. But
I guess also you could argue that Callum isn't that big of a name just yet to
sure,
hold a Wembley Stadium fight.
sure. And of course, like the other names linked to fighting Canelo were like Caleb Plant
Caleb
and
Plant, Caleb Plant, I know of, but Callum Smith is. I need to do a little bit more research on Callum. Um, but yeah, I just know that he is a gold medalist and a silver medalist, but that's pretty much what I know of him.
But yeah, that's what's going on right now. Of course, there are also talks that the Zone might be willing to carry this fight just as a one-off.
Right.
Um, but other than that, that's where we're at with Canelo versus Callum Smith. Um, and it's supposed to take place in December.
Ah. Okay. Okay. And so yeah, then we could move on to pretty much I would say the biggest star in the heavyweight division, right? Tyson Fury. Um, but yeah, so his upcoming fight, right?
Yes. So Tyson Fury has a upcoming fight. Let me get his name real quick. I don't want to butcher it. Agit Caballo. There you go. Agit Caballo.
It is confirmed that it will be on the 5th of December, but it is still for a while it wasn't confirmed who it was going to be against.
Yes, and like you said, Joy, that fight is going to be taking place on December 5th.
Right.
Which is actually good from a TV standpoint because
Right.
Ryan Garcia was supposed to be December 5th,
Right.
which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But yeah, no, Tyson Fury is going to be fighting Agit Caballo. Of course, I'm sure the people wanted a rematch with Deontay Wilder
But
or
that
that mega
seems
series with Anthony Joshua. But unfortunately, that's falling through, and Joshua already has signed a commitment to fight Kubrat Pulev the following week. So there's going to be a lot of political drama there.
right.
So yeah, but so far it's looking good on the Fury camp. Of course, I think it's too early to make a prediction, but it's good to see that I guess the top two dogs right now in the heavyweight division have matches, and ironically, they're back to back.
They're back to back, right? And so it's been an interesting conversation that a lot of people are saying that the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder rematch, the third fight, might not ever happen, and that's a shame. I do think it will still happen. I think there's animosity between these two competitors, and so yeah, maybe right after these two fights. Now, would you classify these two fights that these two great champions are currently going up against? Do you think that it's a little bit more of a tune-up, would you say, for both of them?
I think, given how the year has been, I think it's a tune-up for everyone.
For everyone.
Yeah, because I mean, because it's a bit of a layoff for both
Right.
champions.
Right.
We have yet to see how they're gonna do after this long time off
Right.
from fighting, but I would say be cautious.
Right. Because
Especially with
yeah.
Caballo, because they always say, or at least Rocky said, the one without anything to lose is the most dangerous.
Right. And so
And I think that's more true for Caballo than it is Kubrat Pulev.
right. And so I don't know if you remember this fight, but right after Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury, the first fight, Tyson Fury fought Otto Wallen or Otto Whalen.
Wallen, yes,
Wallen,
I
yeah.
remember. I watched that. Yes.
It was supposed to be a tune-up fight, right? It was supposed to be a fight that prepared Tyson Fury. Now it was a unanimous decision, but I actually thought that he should, at least knock him out. But no, Otto Wallen actually just stood in front of him, took his shots, and so I didn't expect that fight to go to distance, yet it did, and so maybe Agit just needs a little bit more. He just needs the fight to go to distance, right? And so, like I said, this might be the year where upsets are handed out, and so
For sure. And I think watching matches with you earlier in life, I think if there's one thing we can notice is that sometimes not respecting others' power can go a long way.
Absolutely.
So maybe that's the game plan. Who knows? But anyway, yeah. Fury, Caballo, December 5th.
Right.
So mark your calendars, fans.
Absolutely. And so Deontay Wilder, was there any more that you want to add from Deontay?
I guess a little bit more of a human response here, but I think the man's going a little crazy.
I think he is obsessed. I think he really needs to step into the ring to kind of, release some of that anger,
For sure. I would love to see him back in the ring too. Now, why not fight someone like Andy Ruiz? Or
right?
Derek Chisora, Dillian White.
Dillian White. Right. No, I mean Dillian White. I think they had postponed him and Povetkin.
Oh, that's right, because Povetkin, got hurt or
Right. Right.
something like that. But yeah, no, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like that's the level that he should be looking to scout against.
Right.
So like a Derek Chisora, Dillian White, um, Hergovich. Hergovich was on the undercard of the Haney fight.
Right. Right.
Um, yeah, someone like that. Of course, before he can think about getting a rematch with Fury or even dare to try and challenge Anthony Joshua,
Right.
right?
Right.
Or even Charles Martin. He can try and fight Charles Martin, assuming he's still active, fellow American heavyweight too.
Right. Right.
Uh, but yeah, I don't know. From the suit to the gloves, it's like, hey, Deontay, I don't know you, man, but try. I don't know. I mean, I understand the loyalty there, but try giving Freddie Roach a call. Just saying. That's just my personal opinion.
That's it. So Mayweather is willing to train him for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or yeah, the Mayweather family.
Right.
So
And so yeah, I mean, yeah, and I hope he does step into the ring soon because you know uh, he was great for boxing. It was never a done. It was never a finished fight until the last bell rang, right?
absolutely, like yeah, he could be down on the scorecards and still find a way to win.
Right. It's, case in point, him versus Luis Ortiz. So
Oh, for sure. Oh my gosh.
yeah, absolutely. And so yeah, let's move on to uh, Luke Campbell and Ryan Garcia, right? But
Yes.
more so Luke Campbell. You have the news on Luke.
Yes, Luke Campbell tested positive, and they are looking to move that fight from December 5th to December 19th. So three big fights back to back in December.
Right.
So you got Fury on the 5th, Anthony Joshua on the 12th, and King Rye, or Ryan G, as I call him, on the 19th.
Right.
Again, for Luke Campbell and his camp, we wish him a speedy recovery. We hope that it's something that doesn't fully overcome and compromise him going into this fight, because it is a big fight for both men.
Right.
You know, they got followings, they got pride, they want to be great.
They definitely got followers,
And
especially for
they
Ryan
can't
Garcia.
they cannot find that greatness without one another, in my personal opinion. And I think it's going to be a great matchup. Again, I think it's a little too early to call on a prediction.
Right. Okay.
I haven't seen enough of Luke Campbell or Ryan Garcia, for that matter.
Okay.
And of course, that they're young fighters too. So
I'm just
yeah.
happy. I'm just happy that Ryan Garcia took the fight to Luke
Oh,
Campbell.
for sure, 100%.
So
100%.
absolutely.
That's a competitor.
Right.
That's that competitor spirit. And yeah, so again, for now, speedy recovery, and once all that is all squared away, we can start making predictions. But yeah, tough news coming from the Campbell camp and the Zone camp, if you will.
Absolutely. And so, what do you call it? I mean, I was able to watch Luke Campbell's two fights with Linares and Lomachenko, and this is why I am so excited to watch Ryan Garcia versus Luke Campbell, is because Luke Campbell is battle tested. He has fought some of the best in that division, and that is my biggest question for Ryan Garcia, is that can he fight one of the best in the division and against a battle tested guy. Now, do I think that this is going to be a close fight? I think so. I hope so. I hope Ryan Garcia does get tested. I'm not saying that I hope Ryan Garcia loses, but I do think that it'll do him a lot more favors when he does fight toe to toe with a guy that has been through wars already. And so if Ryan Garcia wins, it'll just skyrocket, his stock, right? And probably make a claim to go up against one of the champions in that division. And so that's why I'm a little bit more excited about this one. Now, what do you think about kind of the mental, I guess, kind of like how does this affect them mentally, right? Because we were set for a December 5th. Now they're pushing it to a December 19th, you said? Right, Wes?
Yeah, I said yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, and so yeah, with that, right? Like, how does that affect you mentally? Because I mean, I know for one, when I have something scheduled on a certain day, on a certain time, only to find out that like it's been pushed. Now you have a couple more weeks of training. I understand like usually boxers will rest 1 week before the fight to kind of just, you know, then it's just more about like padding work. Um, now you're just giving more time in the practice, right? So I don't know. Do you think that might affect either one of them?
Probably more Luke Campbell than
Right.
Ryan Garcia.
Okay.
But we again, that's all speculation. We have yet to see what further details come out of that positive test.
Right.
What if it's also a false positive? We're not sure. So,
Okay.
but either way, that's what it's looking like right now. And I think that's really it from what I can report on that matter with Luke Campbell and Ryan Garcia.
Okay. 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 And so yeah, let's move on to pretty much the very last topic of boxing. I think this is probably one of the most interesting ones. The exhibition fight coming up between Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones. Now, I will give you my prediction on this fight. A lot of people say that this is going to be a knockout for Mike Tyson. I urge everyone to do the research. When's the last time Mike Tyson fought a real fight? And when's the last time Roy Jones fought a real fight? And that was back in 2018. Mike Tyson, I believe his last fight was 2006, if I'm not mistaken. That's a long
Sounds
time.
about right.
That's a long time to be off the ring. And it's funny because Mike Tyson was interviewed recently about his incredible workout video that he posted on social media. And funny enough, he admitted that right after that workout, he actually couldn't move for like a couple weeks. And that just, I just want to remind people that these guys aren't, on their prime. Like a lot of people are arguing on social media saying that, oh, Mike Tyson still generates a lot of power and he still has incredible head movement, and that Roy Jones is still athletic. Roy Jones' athleticism will win the fight. And like, I'm just surprised because I'm like, wait, which Roy Jones? Which Mike Tyson are you talking about? Are you talking about the Roy Jones that pretty much took boxing by storm in his prime, or and the Mike Tyson that was a knockout artist in his prime? Like we gotta keep in mind here that these guys are far away from their prime, and so I think it's funny. I think it's funny when people say, "Oh, Roy Jones's athleticism will overcome Mike Tyson's, power punching." But okay, whatever's left there, I guess.
Personal opinion: don't bet your money on Roy Jones' athleticism or that pivot foot and head movement of Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
I mean, it's obviously going to be for fun.
right.
I understand. Actually, when I was listening to the Adam Carolla show today,
Right.
I was following up with yesterday's episode. He was talking with Showtime broadcaster Jim Gray, and he was talking about how, like Tyson, like we don't know how Tyson is gonna do. Like, granted, yeah, both guys worked very hard
Right, right.
to get to
Yeah,
this point,
absolutely.
and Tyson has been on record saying that if he does do well in this fight, he'll be willing to give Evander Holyfield that rematch. Some what 20 odd years later.
I mean,
So you know
yeah,
what?
yeah,
For me, I'm just gonna watch it in a objective lens.
right.
Unfortunately, I've never had the pleasure of watching either
Either
one,
one,
neither of
right?
you,
I
right?
did see a Roy Jones fight, but it was a 2018 fight.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it was against he was overseas in Europe. I don't even remember the guy's name. That's how. Yeah, he's been pretty much fighting low tier fighters. I will say
Okay,
the
but
most
still,
recent years. Yeah.
I would say for those watching, I would watch with a very objective lens.
Right. Like yeah.
Uh, but if there's going to be any subjectivity here, a part of me wants Mike Tyson to pull it out.
Okay. 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 That's fair. That's fair.
How maybe on points, but
On
because
points.
it's 8 rounds,
Right. Right. I
so
think we'd be lucky just to get 3 rounds of action between these two.
you never know. It might be that one of those fights where it's like they go 200 miles an hour from round 1 to round 4, and then
Oh my
5,
god,
6, 7, and 8 they just mellow out.
that'd be incredible. The 50 is a new 30 then.
Hey, I mean, look. Floyd Mayweather Jr. at 40 something knocked a what 19, 20 something year old Japanese kid literally into oblivion, right?
I guess. But
And
wasn't he like
there's
30
another.
pounds heavier?
Well, okay, fine, but I'm just saying it
Okay.
can be done. And then there is a 42, 43-year-old legend from southern Philippines who arguably could be better than uh, Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford. Still,
Right, right. And so, I mean, yeah. It'll be interesting. Like I said to all our viewers, these guys are not in their prime, so you can't take into account how they've won past fights and apply it to this fight, right? There's a reason why there's only 8 rounds. There's a reason why they're calling it an exhibition. Like these guys, I think they also understand that their best is not there anymore. um, and so yeah, but I think it'll be an interesting fight, right? Me and my brother Jordan we had a discussion where it's interesting how these legendary fighters are coming out of retirement to fight each other once again, which is strange. It's strange to see in boxing. I never would have thought that Mike Tyson was gonna enter a ring again. Um, but I do think that the fight will not last. So these are my predictions. I'm just gonna say it because I don't think there's I don't want to wait because I don't think I'm gonna change my mind. I think I don't think it's gonna last 8 rounds. I don't think it's gonna be because of a knockout. I think it's just gonna be a towel thrown. Probably because of exhaustion. Like I said, I'm very skeptical of this fight. I think it's gonna be fun to watch, but Mike Tyson, if he doesn't um, get off in the first couple rounds, uh, he doesn't really do well later on, and that's from when he was still in his prime, right? Like that was the thing about Mike Tyson was that if he can't finish you off in the first 3 rounds, you could pretty much gas him. And so, yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see. I do think Roy Jones is gonna win this fight. 2 years off is better than an entire decade off of boxing. So, yeah, I'll pick Roy Jones. I think he's a little bit more fit. I think he'll probably be able to see the punches coming a little bit more faster. But yeah.
okay. All right, so we got a split there. And you want to remind me what you had for Crawford and Special K?
Oh yeah. Yikes. I think it's gonna be Crawford. But I do, like I said, I do have that kind of gut feeling where there might be an upset in our hands. Special K is a pretty good boxer. He's a talented boxer. He's fought some of the best. He's been with the best. He's also tasted punches from Golovkin, but he's also been outboxed by Errol Spence. So yeah. I'll probably give it to Bud.
In what fashion?
Probably unanimous.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, so we got for our two fights coming up in November, we got from me, Terrence Bud Crawford in 8 against Kell Brook, Mike Tyson on points over Roy Jones, and Joy has it. Bud on unanimous decision on points, and Roy Jones Jr. You said knockout.
Roy Jones. I say fight stoppage.
Fight stoppage.
Fight
Same
stoppage
thing,
for
almost,
Mike.
practically.
I think Mike will. I think Mike will. We'll see. We'll see where he's at. Maybe in round 3 or 4.
Okay, well, well, there you go. There you have it,
Hey,
fellow
second
Formula
episode.
One fans and boxing fans. That is the show. Do we have any final thoughts, Joy?
Can't wait. Can't wait for this weekend. Special K, Bud, and then the race this weekend. It looks interesting. Like I said, not everyone has data, or complete data in that case, and so usually when that happens, we're in for a really good race. So
For sure. As a first timer watching a race at Istanbul Park, I am really interested to see what goes on,
right, I will
especially at turn 8. And not to mention that is a very nice looking paddock, probably the nicest looking paddock on
right,
the grid.
right.
And for the boxing matches, with Terrence Crawford, it's going to be a loaded Saturday. But with that being said, once again, thank you for your support and listening to our podcast. For Joy,
Thank
this
you
is
so
Wes.
much. We will be back
So-
next week.
Yes, we will be back next week. And yes, thank you for listening. This is the Wes and Joy Show, and keep it on track.